bahlala nathi saxoxa. Namhlanje bathumele uSitheyazo bamela busamukela endaweni yabo yokuhlala. Siyabonga. Ngiphinde futhi ngisase lapha kwaMkhwanazi ngibulise ifamily ka Comrade Riot Makomanisi Mkhwanazi. Ikhona la namhlanje sidlule emndenini sobeka ama-flowers ethunyeni laka mama nobaba uRiot Makomanisi Mkhwanazi. Sobakhumbula nokubonisa inhlonipho kule ndima bayingenela balwela isizwe sabantu bakithi. Siyabonga ukuthi nibe khona futhi nisijoyine kule meeting. Ibulise i-leadership ye-Communist Party, members of the Central Committee, members of our Provincial Executive Committee led by Comrade Themba Mthembu, our district leadership led by Comrade David Utongo, and the branch and all our members in the area here who have organized, who were central in organizing this event, and all our members present. Mbulise leadership ka ANC, uComrade Alpha Sumbat, uconvener we-RTT, no Comrade Utogo Uzami. Sibonga ukuthi babe khona na wonke amalunga ka-ANC akhona. And the comrades from Sacp, uComrade Mthombeni uPhumlani, no Comrade Edwin, na wonke ama-affiliates we-Sacp individually and collectively who are here. Some of them I've seen leading very important songs during this period when we are here. And also Sbongum Lives. In leadership here, Samco, Comrade Nelly, and all Samco comrades. I can hear members from Umkhonto Sizwe Liberation War veterans. Kuma event with Comrade Mseko, kumele babe khona, bakhulumele amasotsha womzabalazo, the frontline combatants of our liberation struggle. Ngiyababulisa individual who are here, not in collective structure. Then greet the Young Communist League through Comrade Mzwandile Takudi, the National Secretary of our Young Communist League, and all the PYA components and members of the National Committee of our Young Communist League. I must say, Comrade, that we had a discussion in the Central Committee of the Communist Party when we were debating how to implement this decision to contest local government elections and the face of these elections. I'm not much of a Democrat. I refuse my face to be on the T-shirt. But I see now the YCL have put this T-shirt out. I requested the Central Committee, let's rather use the names of our comrades who are no longer alive as the face of our campaign. There were some arguments, this and that, but that was my summer. But our comrades have gone on to defy, including the National Secretary of the Young Communist. Now one comrade would say, Abasha or Zabaenza. So, National Secretary, Mubonile, Nara Malunga, Nifagel a T-shirt. Comrades, let me greet as well the media. Today, I don't know why, we attracted so much presence of the media. It's unusual.
It's unusual.
It's unusual in Temple because June, ngomhla 2nd June, sasilonche umkhankaso omkhulu wokubhidliza nokulwisa indlala. Lo mkhankaso sibiza ukuthi People's Red Caravan. Sawuloncha eMhlabe in the northwest. Not even an interview on this program. Bafuna interview amasesibuyile. Sizwile masibabona ku social media space. Sizwile ukuthi bene lapho. Can we get a comment? We have been refusing to give such kind of comments. Kubantu abangasihloniphi. Just last week sibuya eMpumalanga kulo mkhankaso lo. Still imedia ifike right at the end. Lakhona kufike laba be-radio. Namhlanje ngiyabonga ukuthi bakhona la. Ngoba bathanda masixoxa. Abathandi masiyenza. Kodwa siyabonga ukuthi bakhona. Into efuna ukuyisho ukuthi into esikalile singamakomanisi. I was just acknowledging the presence of the media in this restaurant. Let me, comrades, say we thank you, Comrade Mthembu, the PEC, for organizing this event on behalf of the Central Committee. You have never failed when given tasks to implement some of our programs. Siyabonga. I also want to indicate, Guti, we in the Communist Party have reforecast how we do our work, including public celebrations. Leyo decision sayithatha khona la eMgoy. When we had more than 4,400 delegates who gathered here at our 13th Party Congress. And we saw how expensive were such congresses, including rallies. Our resources are now focused on community development, not public speaking and rallies, community development. And that's where we're spending the little resources, the little pennies that we have or we mobilize. So siyabonga ukuthi nisorganize this important event to celebrate our 104 years of consistent struggle for socialism, people's power, and people's liberation, in which we are now intensifying the class battles for meaningful working class representation and for ending poverty in our communities. We are sharpening contradictions against capital, even against the captured bourgeoisie, that is, those who represent the interests of capital, who may even be occupying critical positions in government. Because government today, under capitalism, the state effectively represents an important locus of power because it has capacity to legislate, to enforce legislation, to implement. So if society is poor, that society has the right to question the authority of government or the government in power. And more especially, a society like ours, such a rich country. Yesterday, I was talking to our comrades who traveled from Johannesburg. They left late. In fact, they wanted to leave Friday late. I said, no. Your comrades, you can't leave after they got the car, possibly after 6 to 8. Said, no. Why do you drive during the night to Durban? Drive during the day and see the beauty of our country. So when we talk about our country, our land, you know what is it that we are talking about, you know what is it that we are defending. So this rich country has people so poor that others are dying of hunger. We've got statistics. We gave these statistics when we were launching our campaign in Musav. They are available in public of people dying of hunger in our country. And therefore, the lesson of our 104 years is very clear, that we cannot allow to have political freedom without economic emancipation that is not complete. That democracy without working class power remains hollow and will become meaningless to the people. And therefore, to tackle the crisis of unemployment, poverty, and inequality that continue to define the lives of millions of our people in our country today, we have to refocus the meaning of politics and the meaning of the exercise of political power. Because it is clear in this country, people do not understand the purpose of power, the purpose of political power in their hands. That's why everyone is fighting to be in power. And when they are in power, majority of them don't know what to do. Because they don't tackle the fundamental problem, the problem of capital in our country, that controls all the resources of our people only for the interest of a minority. And therefore, our fight against private monopoly capital that continues to loot resources of our people, exploit labor, and sabotage development is intensifying. This we are clear about the posture of Capital International, particularly resembled by the behavior of Donald Trump of America, who's leading the dominant capitalist country in the world, but also of Europe in its entirety, particularly its anti-people posture. We cannot therefore say, because of this power of the US or of Europe or of capitalism, of imperialism today, we fold hands and do nothing about it. We have to continue the struggle for the emancipation of the working class and the poor in our countries. Therefore, we have to tackle neoliberal austerity and monetary policy that continue to suffocate our economy, while corruption and lawlessness undermine the gains we won through many sacrifices of many decades, including of many comrades in this region. And therefore, the struggle continues. That's one main message of our 104 years. The struggle continues. Now, when you continue the struggle, there are bound to be tensions, what we characterize as contradictions in the Communist Party. Comrade name, contradictions. The contradictions, Mao says, you can have harmonious contradictions. That is, differences of comrades who are fighting in the same battles, who are saying, let's pursue this particular strategy or that particular strategy, but are not differing on where they are going. So whatever they do, they can do harmoniously. But they may differ on how to get there. And there are those contradictions that are hardened, like our contradictions with capital. Because the source of poverty in this country, the source of continued inequality in this country, the source of unemployment in this country is the control of capital of our economy, even of our state. You have a state that it's every single time serves capital rather than the interests of the public. I was listening even a couple of days ago, the president responding to these tariffs imposed by the US. The first thing he said is that we will have to find a mechanism to protect businesses. He's not talking about how to protect people. That's the orientation that we have. Even throughout COVID-19 and any other disaster that we have gone through, look into how capital has been supported by the state. And look how the people have been supported by the state. Because the state has hollowed out its capacity to be what it's supposed to be, an instrument of the people for their own development. So in this regard, comrades, we want to make a call as a Communist Party to all sections of our society as a whole, the working class as a whole, the unemployed, the workers, the poor, women, men, the youth, the progressive intellectuals and sections of the middle strata, as well as the peasants. And we have reconnected this question of us and the peasants, that all of them must intensify the struggle. We are republishing with Tricontinental, Comrade Mtembu, the book written by Govenbeg, The Peasant Revolt. We are republishing that. Just to deepen our own analysis of the current conditions facing our people in our communities. But we are also saying, comrade, that in order to establish a prosperous and non-racial and non-sexist society, and to defend our hard-won democratic dispensations and gains, which remains one of our key milestones in our history of 104 years, we must not believe that this is an end in itself. In other words, the victory of the 1994 democratic breakthrough was meant to obliterate or to completely destroy the legacy of colonialism and apartheid, and to build a life in which we characterize as a better life for all our people. In other words, the NDR, lo mkhankaso esikuwo wokulwela inguquko nenkululeko yabantu bakithi, sibiza ukuthi i-NDR, National Democratic Revolution, in simpler terms means ukuphelisa okungalingani kwabantu emphakathini, abantu besilisa nabantu omama. At the same time, abantu abasebenzi nalabo abaphethe umnotho. In other words, ukuthi umnotho ube ezandleni zabantu through their government. Because you cannot create equality or egalitarianism in society without taking the ownership of the economy. Now, the central crisis in our revolution today remains capital. Who defends capital today? Those aspirant capitalists who have captured the state in the name of the people. That is why for over 22 years of discussions about the exercise of power in this country, reflected in the debate we characterize as the reconfiguration of the alliance. In essence, that debate was about the exercise of power in this country. We've been dissatisfied with the exercise of power in this country as a Communist Party. We still are, even today. Now we're talking about power that is eluding us, when we cannot even exercise it. You know, Nkotu Chief Mabalani of Makapanstad, who gave closing remarks at our People's Red Caravan in Muhlab. Comrades from this province were there, Comrade Msize and others, Comrade Mfelas, and from other provinces. I should have recognized other comrades from different provinces who are here, especially our comrades from the neighboring Mpumalanga, Comrade Touch and them. Utu Ubabu Mabalani Lento sayenza emhlabe ihlule government for 30 years. Sayenza in 7 days. Because of lack of understanding of the exercise of power. And when we are talking about exercise of power, we've been relegated into a permanent discussion of no consequence. That's why we've had over 22 years of discussions. We have got 5 key resolutions of our party from Polokwane. In fact, it started in Rustenburg, 2002, to Polokwane, 2007, Ngoye, 2012, Johannesburg, 2017, Johannesburg again, 2022. 5 Congress resolutions on one thing, modifying this and this, begging to collectively exercise political power with our allies. And the ANC became arrogant with power. Arrogant with power. They're even arrogant to us as a Communist Party. In November last year, 2 weeks before our Special National Congress, we gave a brief report in a respectful way, Comrade Mbata, help us. In a respectful way, we gave a report because the ANC told us, take it or leave it. When we said to them, we want to discuss with you a concept we characterize as flexible. Flexible concept for how to exercise political power, particularly with regard to local government elections. It was the president of the ANC who led this charge that's not possible. It was not the Sacp. Please, tell the truth. It was not the Sacp. When you push us to the corner, we'll tell the truth. Because we in the Communist Party venerate the truth. Yes. Don't create an impression that when you are problematic, do wrong things, Elfas is suggesting. We explain in detail what neoliberalism is. Neoliberalism, for Ugutsi understand, it's when government takes its responsibilities and hands it over to private corporations or capital. The responsibility to provide education, health, electricity, transport, and other basic services, even water. Nikethu government nithi nifuna nama services aphinde ama-parties aphinde ezekini athi sikhetheni sizonizenzelani ukuthi kanti they are going to ask capital to do it for you. Capital messes up everything. I just saw, for instance, one of the first tasks of the People's Red Caravan for in this area is to silungise lo mgwaqo Comrade Tembo oya kaBabu riot. Sibuya khona manje ekseni in the People's Red Caravan. Our view is we don't see a problem more than once. We could see Butagambedi. And I can tell you, it doesn't cost millions to do it. We have done it. We have done some roads in different communities we've been. It doesn't cost millions. It's because these things have been tenderized. That's what the problem is. And we were the first to call for de-tenderization of the state in the early 2000s, before even some of the other organizations that have become the champions of this were even born. Who listened to us? They didn't care. Because the tender system was the looting pot. That's part of the problem. Of course, comrades, therefore, neoliberalism, when it was now agreed in our bilateral discussion earlier, the comrade said, well, I understand you on this and that, maybe you are right on this aspect. But remember, we're a multi-class organization. We are free to pursue public economy, and capitalist economy. They think public economy is socialism. It's not even that. That's the extent to which we have been patient inside the alliance. So it's important to articulate this question because the National Democratic Revolution is equally a strategy of to transform our society and to live development. This term was developed by the communist movement when they were discussing in the 1919 to 1921 at the Communist International, where they were discussing the question of the national question in the colonies. So they were discussing how to resolve inequality or racism or colonial oppression in all those countries that were oppressed across the world. And this question of resolving the colonial question in different areas that were colonized by European powers and America led to the concept of the National Democratic Revolution, in our case, interpreted to mean ending racism, that is racial inequality, and creating a non-racial society. And we also located here on the basis of the material condition of our people to end patriarchy, the system that creates inequality between men and women and create unequal power relations between men and women and create a non-sexist society. We equally, it's located in our own condition. That is the terrain in which we should fight capital, which is the principal oppressor and the main abstractor of our resources for the few in order to share those resources with the majority. In other words, changing class relations, power relations at a productive level. That's what the National Democratic Revolution in our country is about. We then characterize it simply as saying it is meant to resolve three fundamentally interrelated questions of race, class, and gender in the context of South Africa. But equally, it has always remained anti-imperialist in posture. That's our National Democratic Revolution. So this, comrades, the National Democratic Revolution, it's now been turned into an instrument of accumulation by the elites in political power. In fact, in political office, not even political power, because if they were in political power, they would understand how to exercise political power. At the same time, comrades, our 104 years has given rise to major pointers in South Africa's liberation. We were the first to call for the Black Republic thesis, or for a Black Republic, in other words, for majority rule. When the ANC was still committed to the African claims, visitations to the Queen in London to go and demand this and that right, we launched a full-blown campaign for majority rule in this country as communists. We equally went on to build organs of people's power, which became an important lesson in our national liberation struggle. We started by building the trade unions, because Clement Kadali expelled communists from the ICU. When you expel communists, you must know you are giving them more strength. You are rebuilding them. That's what Gaddafi did, and we came more stronger by building a variety of trade union organizations in this country. Not a single sector in this country can trace its origin largely without the role of the Communist Party in the trade unions. We also built other organs of people's power, cooperatives and self-reliance of our people. That is why in the 40s, the Communist Party was the most dominant organization feared by the racist regime at the time. Hence, when the Nationalist Party came to power, one of the first targets was to ban the South African Communist Party, which they did in 1950 through the Suppression of Communism Act. These were important milestones, or some of the important milestones of the Communist Party. We also, by the way, were critical in the establishment of Umkhonto weSizwe, or armed struggle, the path to armed struggle. We trained people first before the ANC even took the decision towards armed struggle as communists. That's why Umkhonto weSizwe was jointly established with us. We have accepted that its leadership should be under the political direction of the movement, the African National Congress. As you know, Umkhonto weSizwe was established as a non-racial organization. The ANC at the time had not yet even adopted a policy of non-racialism. Because only Morogoro Conference gives them this mandate. They only adopted the Freedom Charter, which embraced non-racialism. We were already operating as the first non-racial organization in this country.